a lot.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So let's hop right into it. Get into the goods.
How you doing, Terry?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Thank you so much for joining in because I want everybody to really understand who we have on the platform today. This is probably one of our most esteemed and established guests we've brought on the podcast. This is Miss Teri Ijeoma. She is a stocks and options trader. She's also the founder of Trade and Travel, as you can see on her shirt. And she was the #1 teacher on the Teachable platform back in 2020. I'm sure she's already killing it this year as well. But she, most people have goals for like 6 figures to make in a year. She's doing 6-figure days. I want y'all to really understand like the magnitude of who this is. Like this is, I know I'm introducing you. I want you to introduce yourself as well. But I'm so excited for this episode. So please tell us about who Teri is, and like really what we like to do with all of our guests is to get into their background story. Like tell about how you grew up and how you came to who you are today.
Sure. So, grew up very humble beginnings, single mom and grandmother. There was 3 generations of women in my household, and like we didn't have a whole bunch. My mom, she worked in service industry, so like teacher, worked for the Dallas Housing Authority. So we had a lot, but we loved each other a lot. So I always was the entrepreneur in the household, and I would try to make money other ways. So like I was the queen of candy in my high school. I had like this really awesome candy candy operation. I like hired people to like take candy to all the classrooms. It was great. But I took that same entrepreneurial spirit into like everything that I did, which I think now is why like my course is probably doing so well because I'm an entrepreneur at heart. But if we go to like what I do, I'm a trader. I'm a day and swing trader. I love making money in the stock market. I do stocks and options. And my last job, I was an assistant principal of an elementary school. But I used trading to quit that job and just start traveling all over the place. So I was in South Korea, in Thailand, in Vietnam. And then people started asking me to teach them how to trade, and I started doing that too. So now that's how Trade and Travel, as you said, came about. And we have over 6,000 people. And every time I have an interview, the number goes up. So it's like we've got a whole bunch of people, thousands of people that I've taught how to trade stocks, and I still do it too. So I just love it.
Wait, hold on. So wait, how did you? Because you mentioned like you grew up, with the entrepreneur spirit. How did you end up, at as an elementary school principal, and then because a lot of people wouldn't think of that as obviously like an entrepreneur kind of like career. How did you end up going that route as opposed to, you know, taking the candy business and scaling the candy business to the $10 million business or something like that? Whenever you were younger.
You know what's crazy, Alex? I'm so glad you asked me that because not a lot of people know this part of my story. So every time that I had a full-time job, I also had a side hustle. So when I was, so in college, so high school was the candy business. Then in college, I did like Mary Kay. That was my little side hustle. I sold Mary Kay to all my professors. And then when I went into education, my side hustle was actually real estate. So, and I heard you guys started in real estate. So I'm actually like a licensed broker here in Dallas, and I'm actually a managing broker. I could oversee other realtors and I get the full commission. But I used to help teachers relocate every summer. And then I would use that money because I started getting that to a point where I was making like 5 figures a summer. Like in 6 weeks, I was making $50,000, $60,000. I would use that to start investing in the stock market. That was my initial seed money. So yes, that's how the entrepreneurial part came about. And then once I started learning how to trade, then that became my side hustle. And so while I was in ministry and nonprofits, I would be trading on the side, and that would make extra money. That actually is what made me say, you know what, I'm done with this full time. I want to make my side hustle my main thing, and it made me think, well, I can actually do trading full time because I had already been doing it on the side and making money. So, yep, you're right. You're right.
See, I want the people that are y'all can hear her voice. You sound a lot like a like a school administrator.
Yeah.
One of those, those super nice school administrators. You just make me feel good. Just talking.
Man, I say that every time I hear her speak.
I feel so much
thank
warmth
you.
and bubbliness. It just feels so good.
Yeah, that's why all the bad kids wanted to be in my office. They would throw stuff, and then they get in my office and want to be good, and I'm like, what? You just didn't want to be in class today. That's like all the troublemakers just wanted to be in my
They
office.
said, please send me to Miss Ijeoma office.
They did. How did you know? You must have been there.
He was one of the kids.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But no, I love that. Marlon, what were you going to say?
No, but you could tell that you always had an entrepreneurial spirit. Like, were you seeing anybody that had that type of mindset back growing up, or is just you like just a one man, like a one woman show? Like you said, you were the only one in your family that was doing it. Was anybody else that you saw that just made you think entrepreneurship back then?
You know what? I didn't realize it at the time, but several people in my family were entrepreneurial. My grandmother actually, she sold Avon and I don't know if that was what it was called back then, but she had to like do all kind of odd jobs to make ends meet. So I'm pretty sure that was something I was seeing, but I didn't realize it. My mom, she actually was in real estate too. She used to take me to houses when I was growing up. She said I was the one that was helping her sell all the houses. Yes, ma'am, you should get this room. Like, and then my dad, so he's Nigerian, and so if anybody knows, like Nigerians, like that's just part of our culture. We gonna find a way to make money. So I think all of those things together, just I came out trying to find a hustle.
So was your mom was she just Black American?
Yep, my mom's regular. I say regular black. My mom's African American. She's from Texas, and then my dad, he's from Nigeria, and he came over to go to school. He came here for college, and that's how they met.
Got you.
Very nice. Okay, so moving forward a bit. So you said you didn't get into stocks until a little bit later. So you start off with real estate, then you went into stocks. Like, how are you discovering these particular streams of income or these particular avenues of building wealth?
You know what's crazy? Sometimes you don't realize when a seed is planted. And I didn't really start doing stocks until 2010. Like after the stock market had crashed, and then I saw a realtor telling me that he was doing so well in stocks. So then I said, well, let me try to do it. So I didn't really start until 2010, but in high school, I had done a program that took us to the Chicago Stock Exchange. And then in college, I had interned on Wall Street at Morgan Stanley. So like I kind of knew about that world, but didn't use that skill until later. And I think that's important for people to realize too, like trading is a skill set. So you can use it whenever you're ready. It's not like you just like, okay, you learn and trade and travel and then you got to do it every day. I think people feel pressure. Like, well, if I do it, I gotta find time and I don't have the time to do it. No, it's a skill set that, hey, if you have some downtime, you can use it. Or if you don't, then you don't have to. So I was introduced to it back when I was younger, and then started really going hard in 2010, and then when I was quitting my job in 2017.
Got you. So yeah, it's like I think that's very big. Like a lot of people, I say that it's like a time and a season for you to really take action on certain things. Like you may hear something like months ago, years ago, and you may like see it, but it doesn't hit you until like later on when it's reintroduced, and now you're in the right frame of mind, you're in the right season to take advantage of it. And then like so, that's when you saw the realtor talking about how good he was doing in it, you were already familiar with it from just years past of like just internships and just things that like where you saw it but weren't really like into it, but now you're already familiar when the time comes to see the realtor doing it, and now you're ready to jump in full time. So talk about like your journey with it, especially getting it started, like as far as the learning process, as far as really understanding what stocks were, and like especially like identifying what options were, because that's one thing that we really haven't talked about too much on our platform quite yet. So we want to really get into that too.
Sure. So I've been trading now for 11 years, which sounds crazy to me. Like, I'm like, what? You've been trading 11 years? Like, oh my gosh.
You're
right.
Right? Other people be like, I started last year in March. Like, no, boo. There's some time in this.
Yeah.
But So for the first 6 years, I thought I could come up with my own algorithm. And at this point, I'm still in education, so still doing it on the side. But I'm like listening to Jim Cramer and CNBC and trying to put my own little spin on it. And sure enough, I was just losing. Like it wasn't working. I kept like picking the wrong companies. Then I didn't have any kind of risk management plan. So I would make some money one day and then lose a ton of money the next day. And I still believed in it, but it wasn't like clicking until I started taking classes. So I started actually going to courses and learning from different mentors and practicing on a regular basis. This is when I was really getting serious about like, this is going to be my full-time income. So I need to be good. And then everything started clicking. That experience from the last 6 years, what I was learning in the classes. I also put together a trading plan. So now like I have a 7-step trading plan. These are the 7 things that I do every time I take a trade. That started bringing in more consistency. And I started seeing all I needed was $300 to quit my job, $300 a day. So I started seeing that on a regular basis. That's when it was like, okay, this is a thing. Fast forward a little bit, one of my first clients, she had made $300,000 and then lost $300,000 because she didn't have a risk management plan. But she also is the first person that introduced me to options, because she started saying, Teri, you're so good at trading stocks. You would be excellent at trading options, because options is 100 shares of a stock at a time. She was like, what the stock is going to do. I read charts to figure out when to get in and out of a stock. She's like, if you know what the stock is going to do, then with options, you could just amplify that. So started adding that to my trading as well. And so now that's like my complete strategy with stocks and options.
So whenever you got into the options, you weren't looking at it as like, you were looking at it as, oh, this is another way to make more income. Because I know a lot of people look at options, well, I guess conservatively, a lot of people look at options as a way to hedge their, actual trades that they're making on a normal basis, right? And so it's like a way to, protect your downside. So you weren't looking at it as a risk management perspective. You were looking at it as another way to augment, what you were already doing, right?
Yeah, so I could see that some people use like covered calls as a hedge. And that's basically like if you own the stock, you can sell options against it and just kind of bring in some income while you own the stock. And so that's how you could use it as a hedge and bring in a little bit of income on a regular basis. For me, though, if I know what the stock is going to do, then I could just I can get into the option at a certain strike price, let it rise, and then make money on it. So, for example, I've been using options of Apple to pay for my dream home. And and I feel embarrassed to even like say these numbers out loud. Like knowing like where I come from, like this used to be like my ideal yearly salary.
That's what I said
and
earlier.
Now this house is like $125,000 a month. It's expensive.
Oh my God.
Apple's paying for that.
A month?
Apple is paying for
Man,
it. Yes.
That's the mortgage?
Yes. Isn't that crazy?
Sheesh.
But I have to admit, it is gorgeous. It's like, it's got all these windows. It's right on the beach. It has its own private beach, its own private pool. It comes with 8 hours of a butler every day. I'm like, I don't even know what a butler does, but I'm glad that the house comes with a butler. I can't tell people where I'm going.
No, you see it though. She posted it 3 days ago on her Instagram, and like it is beautiful. Like if y'all can see that picture, that's how she's talking about.
The house. Yep. The Instagram is Teri Ijeoma, one word. Y'all can go check it out.
Man, it is beautiful.
So because I want people to understand kind of what we're talking about, because I know you mentioned strike price, this and this.
Talking
so
Spanish.
Yeah, they're like, I don't
That's
know what. The only thing they hear right now is that you putting 6 figures on the house, so that's the only thing they get. So I want them to understand what actually options are and like how they actually work. So can you really explain the fundamentals of options as best as you can?
Sure. So I like to think of it as a contract, and literally that's what they are. It's an options contract, but people don't always they forget the names of things. So it's literally a contract that says, I want to buy this many shares of this stock at this date in the future. So you have your, like, how many shares it's 100 per contract. So each time you say I want to do one contract, you have to do at least 100 shares, and then you have to say like by whatever date, that's the expiration date. And then you have to say how much you'll pay for it. So it's just like a housing contract, same type of thing. And then when you say how much you'll pay for it, that's called the premium.
Yeah.
And like these contracts now can gain value or lose value based on the underlying stock. Like if the stock does well that the contract is for, then that contract will gain value. If the stock starts doing bad, that contract will lose value. Your goal as a trader is to buy that contract when the stock is low, and then sell it when the contract gains value. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yes. So you're essentially you're I always, whenever I got into options, I always, wanted to look at it as I'm just trading the premium price. Like that's all I'm actually like trading for. Like as soon as if the premium, like, because a lot of people will look at like the strike prices and like all these other things. Where it's like I'm just looking straight at the premiums. That's personally how I was doing it. And so that's essentially what she's saying. So the premium is the value of the contract. So as soon as the value of the contract is risen to where you want it and you sell it, but if it decreases too low, then obviously you're losing money. But the good thing about options is obviously that you're it's kind of like an asymmetrical bet, right? So your upside is a lot higher than your potential downside. So because the downside is pretty much what you have into it, but the upside is almost infinite depending on the option. So
yep. And that's if you're buying the contract. You can also sell contracts, but then your downside is now infinite.
Right.
So it really depends. If you're buying calls or buying puts, then you're right. Your risk is limited. The only thing is that sometimes when people just think about the premium, they don't realize that there's other things that are affecting the value of that contract, like time. As you get close to the expiration, that contract is going to start losing value. So time also can work for or against you in options too. So that's another thing people have to be careful of.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so no, we had our minimal options trading experience last summer. So like, especially after COVID at first hit, we were all like, literally, we would have Trading View open on our phones while we're at our 9 to 5, just watching the market every 2 seconds. So that's one thing I really want to get into, because I want people to understand like the different revenue streams or different streams of income that you can do from the podcast, and then understand like what comes with each one. So I really want to talk about how involved you have to be with stock options trading versus something else, such as just buying a stock in general. Like what type of attention do you need to be paying for the market, for one, and then are there different types of options traders as well?
Good question. So options is one of those things where you can make money in so many ways, and people just don't realize like all the different ways you can make money. So one of them is, as we just said, like just buying the contract and selling the contract and just kind of waiting for it to go up. That one you have to pay a lot of attention to, because you do have to look at what the stock is actually doing, and you have to be careful of your time value. As you're getting closer and closer to expiration, you kind of need to get out of that contract, because now, like I said, time is going to start working against you. However, a way for you not to have to think about things so much is to sell contracts. Now, if you're selling options contracts, as long as it's away from your strike price, then you're good. So really, you're just putting an alert in your computer that says, hey, if this stock gets to this price, let me know. And otherwise, you're just collecting money. That one's a little bit more passive. You still need to be like mindful and watch. But if you sell kind of far away from the strike price, then it's kind of like just, easy money. It's just coming. Now, I say that with, like, we have a whole course on this. So there's a lot that does go into it to know, like, what strike price do you choose? And, like, what are you looking at in the Greeks? And, like, there's more to it. But just the simplest notion is, if you're selling contracts, a lot of times they actually make money more than someone just buying a contract. And they don't have to put as much time into it, because they don't have to have the stock get to a specific place. It just has to be above or below a certain number. Does that make sense? So that's a little bit more passive. So, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, do you focus more on buying or selling, or do you? I'm sure you do both, but which one do you usually, lean towards?
I do both, but it really depends what I'm trying to do. So if the stock is moving really fast, then I'm usually a buyer. If the stock is not moving so fast and I'm not sure, then I'm a seller. Like it really depends on the time. And you're going to know that based on the chart, what the chart says, and also what you've seen the stock do before.
I'm glad you brought up the chart. So when you are buying just general stocks, like I know a good rule of thumb is to look for something that if it fell off the face of the earth today, would you feel the effects of it? That's like buying a regular stock. And so what kind of rule applies to buying options? Because I know that these same rules may not apply because these are like more short-term plays versus a play like buying Apple stock just in general because you think it's a long-term company. So now what type of rules do you put in place for buying a stock option?
I'm not quite sure how to go about answering that one because you can also buy a longer term option. Remember we talked about the expirations? You could buy one a year or two out, which is a leap, and that would be almost the same kind of thought pattern as buying the stock. But some of the things that make a difference between whether I choose to do the option or the stock is also that idea of I don't know how fast it'll move. Yeah. If it's not going to move fast, then I buy the stock. And because that way, if it does come down a little bit, I have time for it to rebound back up. The option, you don't have that time.
Right.
If it's something that I think will move quickly, then that's when I'm choosing to buy the option or maybe sell an option. Does that make sense?
Yep. And I think you do a great job of like slowing it down for somebody who hasn't really been exposed to it at all. And I think that's like one thing that I don't know if being an assistant principal had anything to do with it, but like Alex said earlier, you give off a very nice and kind vibe that allows people, I think, to really resonate with how you teach. So I think that really does help you out a lot.
Thank you.
So when it comes to like just knowing where to buy a stock option or just a stock in general, like where do you go to purchase these? It's like a brokerage company or something like that?
Yes. And then one quick thing I will say, I think part of that too is like I went to seminary and I thought that I would be actually teaching young adults and like the Bible. So I think part of like my spirit and my personality and like the teaching skill set is probably that too. Like, okay. Like that piece of me, I think like comes across no matter what I'm teaching, which is kind of cool.
And I'm sure that's why you were so successful on Teachable too. I mean, just based off of, that a lot of that kind of stuff, it synergized really well with obviously having that background in, education and then also ministry. And then, that helps with teaching as well. Definitely makes a lot of sense.
Thank you. That's true. And then you had asked me, Marlon, one more time. What was that question?
About where to buy stock, like a brokerage account.
Oh,
like,
yes.
Yeah.
So I use one called TradeStation, but I'm really like you could use any of them. I'm okay with you getting TD Ameritrade, Fidelity, E-Trade, any of them. The one thing I will say, some people ask me about like Webull and Robinhood. Here are the criteria that I would say. One, you want a broker that has really good customer service. So when you call them, if something goes wrong, will they answer the phone? That, for me, knocks several of the brokers out of the park because I've had bad customer service experiences with several of them.
Goodbye, Robinhood.
Right.
The hood, as we like to call it.
The hood.
Right. If it freezes when you need them and you can't talk to nobody, then that's probably going to be a problem. Another thing is you want to make sure that they have robust order types. And this is something people don't realize, but when you put in an order in a trade, there's usually a list of order types, and it could be like a market order that gets you like into a trade at like whatever the market says. Or it could be a limit order, which says you get to dictate what price you want to buy or sell. But also when you're getting out of a trade, there's some different order types. There's trailing stops or just a stop loss. You want to make sure that they have as much functionality as possible so that you have the best opportunity to win. Some of the brokers don't have all the order types, so you want to be careful of that. Also, some of them won't let you do multiple orders at a time. So TradeStation, they let us do something called a bracket order. We have an exit order at the top. That's our target of where we want to get out. And we have a stop order at the bottom of where we want to be protected. TradeStation lets us do both at a time. Merrill Lynch didn't let me do that. E-Trade didn't let me do that. So like you want to make sure that the broker you pick is built for traders and gives you, once again, the best opportunity, the best tools. Another thing is how quickly you can get into the trade. With some of the brokers, they have like a little lag time, but that's how they make their money. You get in and you say, I want this at $10. And then by the time it executes, you got in at 10:06. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but that 6 cents is like really just going to the broker, and it might have made a difference. So it's like at TradeStation, I'm putting an order in, and I had a student put an order in at Fidelity. I got a better price. So that's something else you want to look for. So that's some of the reasons why I use TradeStation. A lot of my students use it, but I don't get anything from them. So you can use any broker, but those are some of the things I want you to pay attention to. And they're charting. If they don't, sorry, I think I got real loud on that, but I was really, it's important. They gotta have good charting technology because that's literally what we're looking at to figure out when to get in and out of a stock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wait, TradeStation didn't give you no affiliate link yet, or nothing like that?
They've been shut. Matter of fact, bring this up. She is a default option on like her name. Like you will see like how are you referred to this? How are you referred to TradeStation? You will see like just different companies, and you'll see Teri Ijeoma.
But you know what? I think they took it off.
Really?
So, yep. I was sending too many people, and I think they were like, "This girl, what is she doing?" So now I'm willing to talk to other brokers. Tell you the truth, but I still have been with.
She a free agent,
right? I've been with TradeStation so long. I still support them, but yeah, I was sending too many people. They were like, "Look."
So let me ask then. Whenever you first got, started with options and all that, because you mentioned you wanted the $300 a day originally just to retire from the 9 to 5. How long did it actually take you to, be able to, reach your goal? And then once you discovered because that was before you discovered options, right? You were doing that before.
I was just doing stocks, and I was adamant too. I'm not doing nothing else but stocks. People would tell me about options. I'm like, no. I'm just doing stocks.
Yeah. So you get the $300 a day with the stocks alone. So then once you discovered options, what did your goal become at that point? Like, because now you're talking 6 figures on a crib, with by Apple. What did the goals change to now with the options capabilities?
So I started actually I still had lower goals, and I actually really encourage people to do this. Before you change your goals, get really consistent at a lower level, and you'll start seeing that you'll make more than your goal. When you start seeing that you're making more than your goal, then move your goal up. And the reason I say this is what'll happen in trading is we'll get greedy. And we'll say that I want $10,000 a day, and you get to $9,875, and you don't want to sell, and all of a sudden you lose all that money because your goal was $10,000. That must have happened to y'all.
Oh yeah,
we have PTSD.
But you were almost there. So if you had a smaller goal, like $5,000, and then you got to 900 or 9,000, then you would have sold because your goal was actually low or you met it. So with me, my goal had stayed at $300 a day, and then I started realizing that instead of making $300, I was making $1,000 a day. And that's actually where our $1,000 a day club came from, because now we've had over 1,000 people making $1,000 a day. But
I need you to slow down. Hold on. 1,000 people did what?
Yeah, we had so my big challenge in 2020 was I was going to teach 1,000 people to make $1,000 in a day from trading stocks. And we hit it. They had to show their bank account. They had to show the stocks and send us screenshots. And over 1,000 people, I've now taught how to make $1,000 in a day. And it's still growing. We hit the goal in like January, and we've been like still killing it.
You said they had to send a bank account, so that means they had to realize those gains.
Yes, they have to. That's yes. In order to make the club, you have to realize the gains, because the goal for us is we want you to use that money. Like you have to be able to like use it to pay off your debt, or use it to buy a car, or
that
use it
$100,000 house.
Right, that part. Oh, I have one lady. She wanted to renovate her kitchen. So at first she was just gonna take the money and straight renovate the kitchen, but she said, "No, I'm gonna trade this money." And she hit it. She traded the money, made enough to renovate the kitchen, and got to keep the money. Like that's what we want people to do.
That's life-changing stuff right there. I just applaud the entire program that you set up, because that has changed so many people's lives. It's ridiculous. I don't know what your goal, like I know that was one of your goals, is $1,000 a day. I don't know what your ultimate goal with that is, like with the program. Go ahead, Alex.
I still wanted to hear what she was gonna say, because she didn't get to it yet.
I think. Sorry, I got excited.
So I started making $1,000 in a day, and started hitting that consistently. So then I changed my goal up. Like I said, change it after you start hitting that goal consistently. So I changed it to 1,000. Then I started hitting like 5,000, 10,000 in a day. So like my goals have consistently gone up. Yeah, for this house, my goal was like 100,000 a day. Because I wanted to like pay it off fast so that I could feel comfortable with moving in. Yeah. So yeah, it's continued to go up.
I love it.
So she probably had like 7-figure, because now you talking, you said 6-figure days, 7-figure. Have you ever? What's the best day you've ever had? I mean, in terms of figures, have you had a 7-figure day?
I haven't. I've been working on it though.
That's the next on the list.
Yeah, when I hit it, I'm gonna have to let y'all know, because that's gonna be a good day. But yeah, I've been working on it.
Like I said, some people's goal.
That's a good day. 6 figures, that's okay day.
I mean, I've done it so many times. Like it's nothing no more. But no, that's why I said earlier. Like some people's goals is 6 figures in a year. Like that is like the goal. Like if I hit 6 figures in this year, I feel like I've accomplished a whole lot. So just what you've been able to do, and for other people, it's like really a testament to how good you've been able to. How good you've been able to get with stocks options trading, and then also how good you've been able to teach it to other people. And I think that's really what changes generations upon generations, is being able to effectively communicate what you've learned to other people, and now they're having success with it as well.
Yeah, that's the part that makes me happy, because to me, like money's kind of lost its value now, and that sounds crazy, but at the same time, it's like you can always get more money, but when you see other people and how it changes their lives, like that's what starts to make you happy. Like, oh my gosh, like this person, they had to go get surgery and they were able to like trade in the hospital bed. Like I literally had students like that. They're like, yeah, I had COVID, but I'm okay, Terry, because I made $1,000 in a day. They like send us like pictures from the hospital. I'm like, what are you doing? Oh yeah, my husband lost his job, but we good because I can pay for my job and his job from my trading. I'm like, okay, girl, so that kind of stuff is what makes you excited. Like, all right, like this is doing something. This is cool.
Yeah. So when people, because I know a lot of people are listening to this, you're getting emotional right now, or listening to this and getting excited. I already know people are getting excited listening to, because it's like one thing about this is like. A lot of people didn't even know that something like this is even possible with like options and like, even the ability to make this kind of money, right? Because it was just something that wasn't commonplace. I don't know when you necessarily, because you say you've been doing this for 10 years. Obviously I don't know. Have you been on social media, like actually telling, how long have you actually been like teaching this, and what actually, made you decide to want to teach this to people? Because I know, this is something that a lot of people didn't learn about options till last year. Like right. They didn't know what options were. Because I think last year was like a big catalyst for a lot of people in terms of like the awareness of the fact that, hey, I got to do something else besides work a 9-to-5 job and make money. And so, but yeah, I say that to say, what made you kind of want to start to bring awareness to this and teach people kind of how to do this?
So I've been teaching this class since 2018. And to be completely honest, when I left the school, I didn't want to teach anything. I wanted to just live my beautiful best life on an island on a beach somewhere and sip, lemonade. That's what I wanted to do.
You didn't have to.
I didn't have to
Right.
teach. And the thing was, the people that I was traveling with started asking me to teach them how to trade. And they kept asking me, like, hey, can we go on coffee dates? Can we go to this? And, like, I don't even like coffee. So it was like, okay, fine, I'll do a class. And I invited them. We did it my first one was in Thailand. So I invited them to a co-working space, and we held a class, and they actually really liked it, and I enjoyed teaching it too. But I thought it would be just like a one-time thing. So I went the next month. I did it in Vietnam, and they said, hey, Teri, can you do another class? So this time I was kind of invested in their success. I'm like, well, I taught them this last time, but this time I'm going to teach them a little bit more. We're going to talk about charting, and, I really want them to be good. So after that, I still had the mindset that this was just a one-time thing, but at least I know that I like it, and I know that they learned from it. But when I got home, at the seminary, at Dallas Theological Seminary, my friends here in Dallas were like, well, we know you're going to do a class for us. We saw it on Instagram. We want to learn too. And so, like, I did a class, and 71 of them showed up. And then all my friends from everywhere. Yeah, and that was a big deal. I was like, are you serious? All these people are here to learn from me?
Right.
In person.
In person.
Wow.
And I sold tickets for like $56, something like that. And I had made like $3,000 that day.
time.
And I was like, oh man, this is the same as my assistant principal salary. I'm gonna just do this once a month. And that's like literally what, like, the extent of what I thought it was gonna be. Like, okay, once a month I'm gonna do this, and that's gonna cover my bills, and then I'm gonna trade by myself. But nope. I guess God had other plans, because my friends in other cities, Atlanta, California, were like, oh, we saw you did a class. When you coming here? And I was like, who said I was coming there? Then I said, well, fine, I'll do it online. And that's when it started to grow. Like, I got that October of 2018, I did my first online cohort, and 30 people signed up.
Wow.
And then it just started growing from there. And y'all, I was so excited about that 30 people. I think that too, like, one of the things I want to really let people know on the call today is you've got to start small. You might hear me talking about, 6-figure days, but I didn't start there. I started at $300 a day, and then I worked my way up. And many times people just want to jump to the bigger success, but they forget, like, the work that goes in. Even with Teachable, like, some people saw my Black Enterprise article and how many people are in my class. I started with just two people signed up at that live event, and I told them, okay, I'll teach you. Then when I did my first online course, it was 30 people. But that year was tough. I had to put my head down. I had to work on the curriculum. I had to focus on those 2 people and just, what do I need to teach them to do this well? So, like, the success I'm having now is not because I started yesterday. Like, this has been something I've been working on. And even with trading, I've been trading 11 years.
Yeah.
So even with my students, they get in. The good thing is, because I've been trading so long, they get success a lot faster.
Yeah.
Some of them are like, oh, it's been 4 weeks and I haven't hit the $1,000 in a day club. I'm so depressed. I'm like, what are you talking about? It took me 11 years to reach this point. But they're like, but so-and-so has only been in the course 2 weeks and he made $1,000 in a day. Well, everybody is different. Maybe your path's a little longer, but, like, you're still like this is super fast, even within a year. I think, Alex, you asked me that too, like how long it took. It took me about a year of practicing to get consistent. So I think before people think, okay, I'm going to quit my job today and start trading full time, keep your job, because you're going to need that money, especially on the time when you lose and you're like, dang, what do I do now? So keep your job at least for a year while you're learning and getting consistent, and then you can start going into trading full time.
I'm so glad you mentioned all of that, because I really thought back to what you said earlier when you first said I'm gonna get serious about trading stocks and trading options. Like you say, that's when you start taking courses. That's when you invested in yourself. That's when you like put your head down and said, "This is what I'm doing. Don't tell me about nothing else. I'm focused on here." And I think people need to really understand that, because if you want to be great at anything, you have to eliminate distractions. You have to really focus in and just do it repetitively. Just practice makes perfect. That saying is really applied in this situation. And a lot of people want instant success without the practice or without putting in any work. And so I think that's one big thing that people can take away from what everything you were just saying and your story in general.
Yeah. And I do think too, people shouldn't shy away from learning in a simulator. Like, I feel like a lot of the lessons that I learned, I did like the hard way. I had my own money, lost it all, had to build it back up, lost some again. And like the emotional toll of that, like you will have a panic attack, seeing your money go. So one of the easy ways to practice ahead of time is to practice in a fake account. I know TradeStation has one. When you open your account with $500, you can practice in a simulator. But there's also some others. TradingView.com has a simulator. Rapunzel, it's an app on your cell phone. It has a simulator. So check out some of those. I think Thinkorswim has a simulator.
Yeah. Yep.
Check out some places where you can practice with fake money and then start practicing. And I'll tell you the truth. Yes, on that day when you make a whole bunch of fake money, you're gonna be real mad because you could have made it in your own account. We've all been there. But on that day when you lose a lot of fake money, you're gonna be really happy.
Brushing that sweat off.
Right, that it wasn't your money. So practice first.
So one thing I always see, I don't always see, but one thing I always think about is, because the thing about trading is that it can be really inconsistent, at least when you're starting off. I'm sure you have a good consistency now because you have a very, solidified plan. But when you're starting off, your emotions are, involved. So it could be really inconsistent, right? Like you said, you can make 500 in a day, then lose 500 the next day, make 1,000, lose 500. So it's like, it could be overall, you can look at the gains and, it might be. I'm trying to figure out how to word this, because do you think it's better to shoot for like a very small consistent amount, or like to be I don't know, I don't want to say shoot for bigger amounts and then potentially lose bigger amounts, because if you make bigger amounts and then lose bigger amounts, it could end up being the same thing as making a really small amount, right, every single day. So what strategy have you found works best in when it comes to like that aspect of trading?
One of the things I teach my students is to try to go for 1% of your cash amount. And I used to say per day, but you don't have to trade every day. So when you do trade, try to make about 1% or average 1% of your cash amount. So that means if you're trading with $2,000, you're trying to make $20 on a consistent basis. Mm-hmm. That starts adding up. And people, I think they feel like, well, 1% is so low. But I mean, if you make 1% each trading day, that's 20% return a month, and that's better than what the S&P did all year.
Right.
But that's just by being consistent with 1%. So I think going for smaller averages on a regular basis will be better than trying to just knock it out the park.
Yeah.
With that said, though, I also do think that it's an average. So some of my students get real frustrated because they're like, Terry, I got to trade every day. No, you could also do a swing trade that gives you like a 5% return. And so for us, with that same like $20 a day, well, you could have one trade that made $100, and that would still be averaging about 1% a day. So really, when you start looking at charts, I think that will help to like give you some like strategy and consistency there. But the goal should be something small, like 1% on a regular basis, and then you'll realize you're hitting that more often.
Got you.
Yeah. And I think that takes, sorry. I was going to say, and I think that takes some of the stress out of it too, because if you get to $20, you can say, hey, I hit my goal, and you can go do something with the rest of your day.
Yes.
But if you're trying to go for 2,000, now you staring at the computer all day trying to figure it out and make it work. And it's like, no, just go for the smaller amount.
Yep. I think that's big. That's very big, because especially when you talk about like hitting, just trying to be consistent with hitting that 1% a day versus trying to hit the 100% days like you see people hitting. And I think that really has to play a large factor on your temperament when it comes to trading in general, because I know for a fact, I know how me and Alex were both experiencing it. This is a very emotional roller coaster. Like you, when you have highs, you are like, yes, this is the best idea I've ever had in my life. The days you have your lows, you throwing a computer out the window, because like, man, I'm done with this.
So, your friends better not talk to you. You're gonna snap on them. Family better get out the way. They're like, what's wrong with you? Don't ask me nothing.
Right. It's like, yes, so we've been there and done that. So like, is that something that you really ingrain in your students early on before you even get started with like teaching, like teaching like the fundamentals of trading options, like that, just understanding that temperament piece?
You know what people have to realize? The most successful traders are, and this statistic someone told me, so it might be different now, but when my mentor told me this, it made me feel better, so I'm gonna stick with it. But he said the most successful traders only win about 40% of the time. They lose more than they win. But the key is that when they do win, their wins are bigger than their losses. So one of the things that I teach in our risk management, we have like a whole risk management class, but one of them is reward to risk ratio. So we're looking for trades where the reward is 3 times the risk. But what that means is if you take 4 trades, you could lose 3 times and win once, and you still break even, because that one time that you win, the reward was 3 times what you let your risk be. And I know that probably went over somebody's head, but just think, if when I win, I make $300, and each time I lose, I cap it at $100.
Yeah.
Well, I could lose 3 times, lose 100, lose 100, lose 100. But on the one that I win, I make 300. Well, I just kind of balance myself out. So the goal is, so that means that you're winning 25% of the time. Well, what if 2 of those you won and then 2 of those you lost? Now you're at a 50% like win rate. Well, now you made 600 and you only lost 200. Now your money is going up.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
But you have to go in as a trader knowing that you're going to lose, but just trying to keep those losses small so that your averages equal out. And I think that's what some of my students don't realize. They think, because oftentimes when you're a trader, you've been doing well at everything in your life, like things that you try, you succeed, and you make it happen. And so you come into trading and you're like, I'm going to figure out how to make this work, and I'm going to always be a winner. And that's not true. Like, that's when your emotions get in there. You're not always going to be a winner, but it's okay. More times than not, you're going to be a loser, but you just got to learn how to make sure that those losses are small and the gains are big. Does that make sense?
100%. So while we on the topic of losses briefly, what is one of the most memorable losses that you have had in your trading career? If you don't mind sharing, you don't have to. You don't want to, but I just want to.
I think that transparency really helps and make it real for all the listeners.
Usually I talk about my Pandora loss, and that was like when I first started trading. I lost like $26,000, and this was back in the beginning when I was like just using the money I had saved up. So I'm crying, and I had thought that I traded earnings, which is another no. I'm just put out there for y'all. Don't trade earnings.
That's a whole nother conversation.
But I had traded earnings thinking that Pandora was going to go through the roof. And sure enough, it dropped through the floor. And I had no control because it did that before the market even opened. And then once the market opened, it just kept falling. And I just panicked. And I called my mom. And I'm in Thailand, by the way. So I'm like calling my mom, telling her like I'm about to quit. And then she tells me like, well, what are you going to do to get your money back? And so then I'm like, oh, gosh, I guess I can't quit. But I didn't know what I was going to do. Like, to me, that loss meant that I was going to have to go get another job.
Yeah.
And telling me that was like stabbing
Murder.
me. Yeah. to tell me that I couldn't be my own boss anymore, and I needed to go start putting my resume in.
Come back from Thailand so you can get back to your.
Oh man, that hurt. That just But so that was actually my biggest loss.
Yeah.
Or it was my biggest loss back then. Now I've had bigger losses, but as I was telling y'all before, my mindset is different.
Mm-hmm.
So like I know when I lose that, okay, every time I lose, that's just setting me up for the next win. And they're been big because I told y'all like I'm trying to make $1 million in a day. Well, a 3-to-1 reward to risk ratio means that sometimes I have to risk like 6 figures to make 7 figures, right? And I've lost, on some of those trades, and so that it's a big learning curve, and I've had to try to figure it out. But
mentally,
that's what I'm thinking. That's why I'm cringing thinking about seeing my account start at 110,000, or let's say $1 million and 100,000. Then you see a whole 100,000 lose. Like, yo,
it's hard.
You got to sit there and keep a poker face too. Like, hey, that's chalk it up to the game. On to the next one.
It's hard. I actually have a student who called me, and that was his exact situation. Last year, I helped him, well, because I'm his teacher, he went from like 800,000 to 2 million last year. And he had like great trading days. And then this year, trading has been a little bit more difficult. Like 2020, it's not as easy. And I mean, my strategy still works, but it's just like, I think he had gone in with the mindset of like, I could just do anything. And it's like, no. And he had that situation where he lost 6 figures, and he's like, I just panicked. I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, but you're still up. He's like, yeah, but the point is, and I've had that even for myself, like, golly, like, I don't even remember what the question was, but it's tough. You literally have to step away. So anytime you have a big loss like that, you need to step away from trading for a little while, because the natural inclination is that you're going to revenge trade. Mm. Like you're going to try to get your money back, and you're going to try to get your money back in that stock. Like, oh, I just lost in Apple. I'm getting Apple back. Like I gotta be.
So you're too close to home. Yes, that's why I'm dying.
So yeah, like I've been doing this 11 years. I've experienced it all. So then you try to get your money back in that stock, and sure enough, like you lose again. So the first step when you do start losing like that is you got to step away and like completely cut yourself off from trading. Stop watching CNBC. Take the alerts off your phone, because then you're going to start having FOMO, fear of missing out, because you're going to think like, man, if I was trading today, I could have actually made some money back. But when your mindset is wrong, like it's not going to work. So you have to kind of completely let go, look at and get out of the trade too. Another thing that happens is people is so low that they say, well, it can't go lower from here. And they just leave it, and it's like, no, boo, it can always go lower. You need to get out of that, get out of that trade, and then you can really just refocus. Look at the current amount of money that you have. Start, and the good thing is, trading is a long game. Even though you're actively investing, like especially if I'm talking to you guys are young. You're 25. You got time. Like, your birthdays are coming up, but you have time to get that money back. Right. You don't have to get it back tomorrow. So that's when you can start dividing it up and say, okay, if I want to get back to even, this is how much I lost. Let me break that up into pieces over the next 6 weeks or 6 months. How much money do I have to make a day to get back to even? And then you can just start being more rational and getting back to your trading plan, and it'll help.
Yeah, man.
I don't know why we didn't know about you last year. We just would have saved a lot of heartache. That's why I keep laughing so much, because I'm just thinking, had we been hearing this type of information last year, this would have, like, everything that we did, you just described, like, down to a T. So I know you've seen it happen countless times with your other students. So that's why you're able to tell it in such detail. And that's why it's hitting us so hard, because we weren't a student. So we just did all the wrong things. So yeah. I want everybody listening to this to really understand who's talking to y'all right now. This is somebody who's done it many times, and if y'all, I just want to, can you please plug like what trade and travel all over again? Because I think somebody here is going to join your course from hearing this today.
Sure. If you want to just do like I have a free webinar to teach you or show you how I trade, and it's called How to Make $1,000 a Day. To get to that webinar, go to itradeandtravel.com. itradeandtravel.com. But I'll tell you the truth. I feel like we've covered so much on our call today. Like there's some people who have been losing or have been like really struggling with their emotions and need a solid trading plan. So if that's you, you can just go straight to my website to purchase the class, and that's investwithteri.com. Invest with, my name is TERI.com, and then you can purchase the course. There's our full VIP program is 8 weeks. But you can start with just half of that, the first 4 weeks, or you can do a payment plan on the first 4 weeks. So I definitely, if you are struggling like emotionally, if you're struggling with your risk management and losing a lot more than you're making, if you are not picking the right companies, because a lot of people, I see them trying to go after these like penny stocks and whatever somebody says, like no, there's better ways to pick companies.
Doge.
Right. Don't do it. Then you need this course, and like this course is for you. Like that's what I made it for. So yeah, definitely investwithteri.com, and you can sign up. You can sign up anytime, but we do have at the beginning of each month we start over with our Q&A, our coaching call. So get in so that you can be a part of it.
Oh, I love it. Y'all gotta tap in with that, because I feel like, especially with something, as potentially, this is a lot different than, a business or something like this. This is something where you need to have a plan. You need to have, everything you need to have a plan. You need to have a strategy, but it's even more imperative that you have a set plan going forward. And like you said earlier, you're going to be, the learning curve is going to be shortened whenever you learn from you, because you've been doing this for so long, over a decade of experience. So now, you've already paid for a lot of those mistakes,
right?
For a lot of us. So we appreciate you for that. And
Yes,
that's a great way for people to go and learn without having to. It's not to say you won't lose money. You're still gonna lose money, but you're not going to make a lot of bonehead mistakes that we made last year, and that you'll be able to avoid a lot of that. So.
And I think too, some people, when you go, it might be a little bit of a sticker shock, but the competitors for my course, they sell their course at like $30,000, $50,000. So mine is only $5,000. It's 10% of what the competitors charge. So I wanted to make sure it was accessible for everybody. And like I said, first half of that is just $2,500. So I'm transparent. That's what the price is. But what other people will say, like you guys, I have a feeling that you might say this. You could either buy the course up front and learn about it ahead of time, or you could try to do it on your own and end up spending just as much money losing.
And then still go get the course.
Right, and then have to buy it. So that's why it's better to just like make the investment ahead of time, and that way you can practice in your simulator while you're learning, and then once you get to your real money, you'll be good. And like we said, it's a skill set you can use forever. So like if you're busy right now, then you don't have to do it, but you'll have it this year, next year. You can always have that skill set to make some extra money.
Yeah, and I think it's good to have that. That's a great tool to have in the tool belt. Mm-hmm. That's a great tool to have in the tool belt. Marlon, what were you going to say?
I want to dispel something that I know a lot of people are thinking. I want to target them right now. So people hear that number, 5,000, they're like, oh, no, I'm not buying that. Think about your return on your investment. She has 1,000 people making $1,000 in a day. If you made that just 5 times in 1 month, you will make all your money back. If you do that over the course of a full year, you have 12 extra money that you invest into this course. This is paying for 11 years of mistakes and of learning. This is so like that. That's the type of mindset you need to have when you're looking at investing in something such as this class that can change your life forever. And this is something that never goes away as far as the knowledge.
This is like you. A lot of people spent way more than $5,000 on school, and you're not making nowhere near to what you can make into from this. So this is what we talk about, learning from real teachers in the information age. People that are actually out here and doing things, and out here that are teaching. They're not professors that are teaching business and never had a business. We are learning from people that are doing things and are real teachers today. This is the new revolution. This is the new age of learning and the new age of information. And these are the kind of people that you need to be learning from. So I'm so happy that you were our guest to come on here and talk about options, because we've had a lot of opportunities to bring some different people on for options, and I don't think there would have been anyone better to bring on here than Miss Teri Ijeoma. So what I want to do real quick before we wrap up is wrap up with our last segment of the show, which would be the Fast Five. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Boy. Oh. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. The Fast Five. Yeah. So that's pretty much what we'll ask you 5 questions, and you answer them in 10 seconds or less.
Ooh. Okay.
So yeah, let's get it popping. So I'll take the first one and then we'll alternate. First question: what does success mean to you?
Not having to have a job or a boss that I have to answer to.
Ooh,
that freedom piece. Like, I want to travel for a month without having to answer anybody.
Choices.
Where's the last place you traveled to, by the way?
Yesterday.
Puerto Rico and Miami. Like last month, I actually was only home for 4 days out of the month.
Oh wow!
I made that comment because when we were talking to your assistant, like every time we would talk to her, she's like, "Yeah, Teri just got back in town like yesterday, last night." So I know you travel very frequently, but you've earned that right.
Trade and travel. That's
exactly
what I do. That's what I love.
Yep. All right. So question number 2: what's your favorite money or business book?
The Bible. The Bible has over 2,000 scriptures about money, and people don't realize it. But like I actually just did a project called The Bible's Money Secrets, and we actually pulled out scriptures that talk about investing and talk about what God says about money, and literally trading is in the Bible. Like there's some servants, they double their money by trading, and God tells them, "Well done, my good and faithful servants." So like you learn a lot just of principles and different things in the Bible.
Isn't that the parable of the three the 3 servants? That's the one. That's the one you're talking about, right?
Yeah. And that's right. And one of them gets 1 talent, and the talents are worth about like $200,000. So I believe my numbers are right. I had to look it up, but the one of the servants gets 1 talent, and he goes and buries it in the sand because he's afraid. And the master comes back and is like, "You should have done something with it. You could have even put it in the bank and got interest, something."
Yep.
But because he was afraid, he didn't do anything with it. So we want to make sure that we at least do something with our money.
Yep. Cool.
Great answer.
Yeah, so the next question is, would you rather have, and I feel like I know the answer to this, but would you rather have $1,000 a week for life or $1 million today, and why?
Okay, so I know that I'm supposed to say $1,000 a week for life, but for me, like I could turn that 1 million into something else. So I'm like, y'all just give me the money and let me do my thing.
That's why I knew you was gonna say that.
No, if you use your rule, I just thought about this like round the spot. If you use your rule of making 1% of that per day, that'd be 10,000, wouldn't it?
Yep. So I'd make 50,000 a week, 200,000 a month. I'd double my million in 5 months.
But no, there's no right answer to that. But that's why we asked why, just to see what the rationale behind it. So there you go. Okay,
but FYI, when you're making 1% a day, if you're consistent, you do double your money in 5 months. So people should know that, like, you can actually like do really well by just having small, consistent wins.
That's a gem right there. I hope somebody took that and just gonna run with it. So, question number 4: if you could go back and change anything about your journey, what would it be?
Ooh, I was watching Apple when it was like $99, about to be $100. I was watching Amazon when it was $199, and everybody was saying nobody would buy online. So I wish that I would have invested sooner and just really got in. But now, like, all the prices, there's still room. So people shouldn't assume that it's over, they missed it. Like, there's always an opportunity.
Love it. So then last question, where can people find out more about you?
Find me on that free webinar at itradeandtravel.com, or all platforms at Trade and Travel. So Instagram, I have a Trade and Travel. We have a YouTube channel that people love at Trade and Travel. Or you could even just look me up at my name, Teri Ijeoma, on IG as well.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Man, it's been a great episode. I'm so excited to get this one released and pushed out to the people. Because
Alex was like, I'm going to go practice what Teri said. I don't have to win every day. I just got to win one out of the three.
Yeah, that's why I'm so excited. Cause it's like I want to go put this into action. Because it's like last year, you know, it took a lot of L's. I pretty much lost all the money I put into everything last year, and I mean, I'm not mad about it. Like I understand. It's like, at least the thing about us is that we are business people, and we understand. It's like, you know, that's what happens. So I'm not mad about it. So to me, it's like, oh, let's go try again. So you know, that's what I'm excited about. Because it's now, it's like, you know, I got a new platform that I can follow, a new teacher that I can learn from, and that's gonna make all the difference, I think, in a lot of things. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, this has been dope. I appreciate you coming on here and, you know, spreading the knowledge and giving the game out.
It's been my pleasure. Thank y'all for inviting me.
Yeah, much appreciated.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers podcast. New episodes will be released every Thursday and will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Just search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you learned something of value today, and if you did, we'd appreciate it if you rated us 5 stars and left us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also find out more info about us on Twitter at the Monopolizers or on IG at Money Monopolizers. We post informative content on there that'll definitely keep you engaged. So check that out and share those posts. But until then, we're out of here.
You've been listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. To learn more about how you can be in control of your money, visit moneymonopolizers.com. We'll catch you next time when Alex and Marlon share more personal finance and wealth creation tips with you. Now it's time to take